Hello, this is Jack from tofluency.com and welcome to this English lesson where I'm going to talk about a really important thing when it comes to achieving your goals, which generally speaking most people want to reach a C1 level of English. Now, this is when you can have conversations in English and understand other people when they're speaking and to be able to express yourself freely as well. Now, this isn't perfect English, but it's the level that most people want to reach. And then from there, you can start mastering the English language. Now, most people, when they talk about learning English, they say that they find it difficult to understand native speakers, and they find it difficult to be able to express themselves freely. And that's what most people want to focus on. So today, I'm going to talk about the two main things you need to work on if you want to make great progress, but also the two things that I think are the most effective ways to learn English. And this is super important because we want to be effective with our studies. We don't want to waste time on things that don't work. Now, this is for you if you have a busy life, if you have other commitments, if you have a job, maybe family, hobbies, interests. Because what I want to do is to help you create a study plan so that you can continue enjoying your life, doing normal things, but also make progress with your English. So there are two main things we're going to talk about. But again, it's so important that when you create a study plan that you make it sustainable for the long term, so that you can actually achieve your goal. And we're going to be talking about this in context of 6 to 12 months. Okay, so 6 to 12 months. A lot of people approach learning English or learning the guitar or trying to get in really good shape within the next 2 to 3, 4 weeks. They want to see massive results in that time. But forget about that if you really want to make good progress. Don't think that you can just go to an English-speaking country for a month, live there, and you're going to master English. It takes longer than that. Therefore, it makes sense to set up a plan so that you can do this over the long term. Now, before I go into this, know that I have some tools for you. So, firstly, my book, The 5-Step Plan for English Fluency, the link to that is in the description. I also have a link to the course that I have as well. We'll be talking more about that later. And also some links to other lessons which are similar to this one, where you can learn more about what we're going to talk about today. But I'm going to share my screen and show you exactly how to follow this method. And also, just try to get feedback from you. So please leave comments. Now, I'm doing this live. So if you have any questions, leave those questions for the end. I'm just going to go through some of this now. But a way to help me in this channel is to click the like button and to share the lesson. So if you just take a moment, click the like button and then also share this lesson with a friend. Okay, great. So let's just talk a little bit about what those two main things are. But firstly, why sometimes less is more. And I'm going to share a picture with you, which I think is just such a great way to teach this. If I go and click this button here, you can see on your screen now, this is a picture and it says the key to achieving massive results. The key to achieving massive results. So on the left, we have a circle, which is your energy circle. And you can see this energy is going into lots of different directions. So it's going up, down, to the side, in all these different directions. And it's saying pursuing everything. Pursuing everything. Whereas on the right, we have the energy going in one direction, focusing on one thing. Just to focus on one thing. So this is really important when we're going to talk about how sometimes less is more. Now, with this, what the author is trying to say is that if you try to achieve German, Spanish, French, English languages at the same time. And if you try to learn the guitar, if you try to get in the best shape of your life, then it's going to be very difficult because you're not going to go very far in those different things. But if you focus on one thing, in this case, learning English, then you can put all your energy into this. But I'm going to take that a little bit further and talk about actually focusing on one thing or two things mainly when it comes to learning English. You can see that energy going in different directions. But what I want you to do is to think about and to try this out for a few weeks. What if I put my main focus on doing one thing or two things, okay? And then if I do other things, okay, but what if I really focus on doing two main things? And I've been thinking about what those two main things can be. What are the most effective things to do? And again, the reason to do this is because sometimes less is more. And if you focus on what's important and get it done, then you're going to make progress. But if you're constantly thinking, all right, study grammar, then I'm going to take lessons here, do some writing practice, watch this type of video, watch that type of video, try this method, try that method, then your energy is going into too many directions. Whereas if you focus on two main things, get those done every day, or every day you want to study, then everything else will just take care of itself. So those two main things, they are input, mainly listening, and then secondly, what I'm going to call the To Fluency Method. And I'll show you the To Fluency Method a little later on. It's quite simple, but it covers every aspect of learning English: listening, speaking, reading, writing, and also things like grammar as well. But firstly, listening. This is one thing I want you to focus on. Get as much listening practice as possible. Now, the good thing about listening is that it's easier to do than most other English learning tasks, and you can listen while doing other things at the same time. Now, again, I have a long video on this where I talk about how to improve your listening and how to get the right type of practice. But in summary, this, your phone, you're already doing this, I'm sure. You're watching this lesson right now. This is listening practice. This is fantastic listening practice. It's input. And you need lots and lots of input in order to get used to English. In order to import all that English into your brain so that you can store that information. So you're used to the way people speak, so that you can understand words and phrases. Input is so important. And this is how children learn when they are growing up. They listen all the time. They're constantly listening to English. And then they put this into practice when speaking. So get as much listening as possible. There are two things to think about here. Firstly, listen to things you enjoy. Don't listen to things that you don't find interesting. There's no point. So, for example, if I'm listening to things in English, which I do, I'm going to listen to boxing podcasts, soccer or football podcasts, marketing stuff, politics. I'm going to listen to things that I find interesting. So you do the same. Listen to English teachers, but also find podcasts that are just talking about whatever it is you're interested in. However, there is a problem. The problem is that most of these podcasts are quite difficult to understand. So you need to take some time, find the right resources for you, because if something is too difficult, then you're not getting the comprehensible input, the input that you can more or less understand. Now, I'm going to talk about some ways to find that in a second, but this is really important, because if you find something that's too difficult, then you're not going to get a lot from it. It's just going to be not enjoyable to listen to. You're going to be stressed about the fact you can't understand the words and phrases. So find stuff that you enjoy and stuff that's comprehensible. If you are somebody who likes stories and novels, I highly recommend graded readers. Graded readers, these are stories that have been adapted into understandable or comprehensible English. So take some time and find some graded readers, but also look at YouTube videos that you can understand. For example, I listen to a lot of football podcasts. Some of them are difficult to understand for English learners. Others are much easier. For example, TIFO football. The way they present things is done in a way that is just simple, easy to understand English, which is good. Whereas other podcasts, more conversational, people are talking over each other. This is people talking over each other, and it's just difficult to follow. So find things, again, that you enjoy listening to and things that you can understand more or less. Make that a focus. Again, yes, you can do reading. Yes, you can watch movies and TV. But I just think listening is such an important skill to work on. And if you focus on that, then you're just making sure that you get the most effective things done. Okay? So, let's go back to my screen here, which I should have done a while ago. That's the first part. And again, if you're just joining, what we're talking about today is how you can focus on what's really important when it comes to learning English. Because what often happens is we get excited about learning. We then create a study plan and say, this is what I need to do in order to improve. I need to do an hour of speaking practice, an hour of writing practice, an hour of reading, an hour of listening. Then I need to do grammar exercises. And then you find that it's just too difficult to do and you stop. And you just give up, you stop, you take a break. But what I'm suggesting is that focus on doing things that you can easily do every day and things that are effective, because it's a long-term goal, 6 to 12 months. Now, another part of this as well is once you get into the habit of listening to a podcast on your way to work, or listening to a YouTube video, watching a YouTube video before you go to bed, or listening to a graded reader while you work out at the gym. Get into the habit of doing it. Then you're not using that willpower and energy to learn English. Instead, it's just part of your life now. It's just something you do every day. There's no effort to start it. It's easy to do. It's enjoyable. So it's just part of your life and part of your daily routine. That's the type of area we need to get to. That's what you need to get to. Okay, that's part one, listening. Again, if you are enjoying this, then please click the like button and also share it with your friends. So we have 52 likes. Let's try to get to 100 in the next 10 minutes. Okay. So Kubra says listening important. Yes, it's important. You can listen or you can watch. So watching a TV show is listening. I think that the most powerful way is to listen and read at the same time. But again, this is taking a lot of energy when it comes to this. And method 2 is actually going to cover this part. It's going to solve that problem. But listening, watching, this is the input that I think is more important than reading, let's say. So again, it's focusing on what's more important and making sure you get it done. Because you can have the perfect study plan in the world, the most perfect study plan, but if you don't do it, it's not going to make any difference. Whereas if you actually understand that you have a busy life, you have commitments, family, job, work, sports, school, other things you enjoy doing, and then you can bring English into that world, then you're going to do it for the long term. Now, number 2. Okay, number 2. I'm going to call this the To Fluency Method. You can also call this the LRRC method or the sentence method. And this is very simple in terms of what you're doing, but it's incredibly effective. And what you do is you find audio phrases, okay? Ones that you can read and ones that you can listen to. So a phrase with the writing and also the audio. Then you repeat the phrase. So you listen to it and then you repeat it. And at this stage, what you're working on is mastering the whole pronunciation. How to repeat that sentence back, sounding similar to the English speaker. That's the first part. Now, this takes a bit of work. It takes concentration and it takes focus. So this is important to find time to do it. And what I'm going to recommend as well is that you spend 10 minutes a day doing this every day. Now, that might not sound a lot, but you can always do more if you want to. The minimum commitment is 10 minutes a day. So you find a phrase, you listen to the phrase, you repeat it, and then you record your version on your phone or on a computer, and then you listen to the way you say it and you make changes. So you take any kind of phrase, for example, learn English with Nasir. Who wants to practice speaking with me? Who wants to practice speaking with me? And what you're doing is you're listening for things like the sounds of English. You're listening for when words connect together or link together. Like, he passed it to me. Passed it, passed it, passed it. Links together. You're listening for relaxed pronunciation. Okay, I'm going to want to go soon. My favorite example. I'm gonna wanna go soon. I'm gonna want to go soon. You're repeating that. You're listening for the intonation and stress, and you're repeating that. And you're listening to the way you say it and making changes. That is step one of this second method, where you're making changes to the way that you say things based on your recording. This takes care of a lot of things. This is going to help you improve a lot of areas, mainly your fluency, but also your pronunciation. Sorry, mainly your pronunciation, but also your fluency. Because when you're saying sentences back and you're saying them exactly like the speaker or close to the speaker, then it's a fantastic way for you to improve. And if you listen to yourself on a recording, that's how you're going to notice what changes you need to make, by listening to yourself. It's an amazing method. I've done this with Spanish. It's when I made my fastest progress with Spanish. I took audio from TV shows and then I listened to them, I repeated them. I watched TV shows, I listened and repeated. That's step one. You master the phrase, you master saying the phrase. Step two is to get long-term repetition of this phrase. So you don't stop there. Instead, you repeat this phrase over the next few months. Not every day. In fact, you're going to repeat it today, then you're going to repeat it tomorrow, then 4 days, 8, 16, 32, 64, etc. I won't go on. That way, you're being very effective with the repetition. And what we can do, we can use software to help us with this. So I'm going to show you next on here. If I do that, nope, if I do that, here we are. So this is using an app called Anki. And Anki is an app that you can use on your computer or your phone. You have to pay extra if you get the app on an iPhone or an iPad, but it's $20. It is worth it. It's the best investment you'll make. And what you do is you enter sentences into Anki and you add the audio as well. Now, this is the part where I'm going to say, if you want to get sentences to download and to repeat them from me, then join the To Fluency program, because that's what you get. And in fact, what we're going to see now is some phrases from the To Fluency program. So this is Anki. If you say study now.
Today is heat wave.
Okay, so when you start, you're going to see these sentences. Our theme today is heat wave. Now, what I recommend you do here because repetition is so important. It is such an important part of all of this. I'm just going to make my screen bigger and move that over there. But repetition is such an important part of this, and you want to make it easy to repeat. You don't want to make it difficult to repeat phrases, because you want software. This software will do this for you. So when I say show answer on Anki, let me get it back open. Okay, there's no real answer, because Anki can also be used as like a question and answer. For example, in which year did Thomas Jefferson die? And then you say show answer and it tells you the answer. But what we're doing here is we're learning sentences. So there's no answer. You can make notes here and say something about it. But this is an important part, because when we see the next step, we can say we want to see that again in less than a minute. Or if you feel, oh, that's okay, good. Or if it's easy, in 4 days. So let's just say that's easy.
Everything in this bucket is a mystery to Jack.
Everything in this bucket is a mystery to Jack. So that's another sentence. And these sentences come from a conversation my wife and I had about heat waves. So again, show answer, we're going to say good.
This all seems very mysterious.
This all seems very mysterious. Now, there are a few things you can do when you see these sentences. You can just listen. You can read them. You can write them down. But also, you can repeat them. I think the best way is to repeat them, but also write some down as well. In fact, this should be very relaxing. I don't want you, when you do these sentences, to worry about, oh, I need to remember them. I need to memorize them. Instead, just trust the process, trust the software, and know that after you see sentences a few times, again and again, over the next 2-3 months, then you are going to internalize these sentences. You're going to remember them. And it's important to know also that we're not just learning vocabulary here. So let's say you don't know mysterious. You're not just learning the word mysterious. You're learning lots in this sentence, all from one sentence. Very mysterious. This all seems very mysterious. You're learning the intonation. You're learning the stress. You're learning the sounds of English, the grammar structures, sentence structures. And that's so important, because learning English through sentences is going to give you all of these things: grammar, sentence structure, vocabulary, all the way that the different ways it's said, intonation and stress. But it's going to give you to these things in a very natural way. So you're not learning grammar rules. Instead, you are internalizing grammar rules. And if you do this with 1,000 sentences, 10,000 sentences, you're going to learn so much naturally. So this type of learning here is more focused. It's a more focused learning, where you're spending those 10 minutes a day really focused on a method. Really focus on this method. But if you want to do more, you can do more. If you can do 20 minutes, that's great. If you can do an hour, that's great. But the minimum, the commitment, is 10 minutes. That means that you're actually doing it every day, because we can all find 10 minutes in a day to do something if it's a priority. And then using that first other method, the listening, where you're listening, you're enjoying things, you're just listening along, enjoying it, then that allows you to then get all that input in a way that you don't have to completely change your life. You don't have to give up hobbies and interests. You don't have to stop spending time with your family. You can make it part of your life. This is for everyday people with commitments. And what we're doing here is we're focusing on two main things: the input, but then also this powerful method, which is going to just use all these different skills of English. You're reading sentences, you're hearing them, you're saying them, you're writing them down, the 4 skills. And you're also learning grammar and vocabulary in the most effective way, which is through sentences. And just to take this method a little further, you can learn these sentences from context. If they come from strong context, then that's going to make a big difference too. Good, we've got 107 likes. Let's try and get that up to 150 before the end of the lesson. And if you're watching this later, after the fact, and you're new here, then please subscribe to the channel and also turn on the notification bell. Turn on that notification bell. Right, so now's a good time to ask any questions. If you want to learn more about these two things, I have a full video on this where I talk about the whole Anki listening repeating method, and I go really into depth with that. If you just go to my channel, it's the top video on the channel. And then look for To Fluency English Listening, where I talk about how to get the best materials for your listening, and then how to be able to understand native speakers over the long term. And again, if you want to learn more about this, then get my book, The 5-Step Plan for English Fluency. That is free to download. And if you want to get these audio phrases, then go to, I'll show you a link to it, to fluency.com/TFP. I'll put the link in the chat, and there'll be one in the description as well. Okay. Bogdan says, what about reading a textbook and listening to its audio version in headphones at the same time? Yeah, I love that method as well. Now, you can take that method a little bit further as well if you want to combine the two by listening, pausing, repeating. Listen, pause, repeat. But that's the focused learning part. Listening and reading at the same time is the input, okay? That's the input. And I think it's good to do that, when you're in bed at night, listen and read at the same time before you go to sleep. And then when you're out and about doing other things, at the gym, commuting, at work, you can just plug in your earphones and listen to things in English. And the more you do that, the better. And that's easier to do because sometimes you're listening to a podcast, but you don't have to listen to everything and really pay attention. You just listen and pick up things every now and then. And then maybe you focus on something else, and then you come back and you listen again and you hear something. So it's a great way to do it. Present Pandy says, should we only listen to the audio or should we jot down the new words and phrases too? Yeah, so if you're using Anki, then what you can do is the text and the audio is there for you. And that's the input part. But then either repeat it or write it down. And just the exercise of listening to a sentence and writing it down, it just connects all the words together and the patterns of English and the grammar in a way that is more powerful than learning grammar rules. We learn grammar through phrases and sentences and just getting all that repetition through that. Okay, someone says, hello teacher, what would you recommend the best materials to listen and speak here on YouTube? There are lots of English teaching channels. For example, Go Natural English, Espresso English, Speak English with Vanessa, English with Lucy, Dream Sleep English. There are a bunch of other ones. But yeah, then on top of that, also think about how you can just find materials that are specific to you and what you enjoy listening to, and also what you can understand. So take that time. It might be, for example, vlogs, watching vlogs, or listening to, for example, Sam Harris. Sam Harris has a podcast where he speaks so clearly and slowly that there's no issue in terms of speed of English. He speaks very clearly and slowly, but in a way that is very good to listen to. So I'll put his in here. And he's more of like a philosopher, political commentator. So if that's what you're interested in, great. But take that time to find channels and podcasts that you enjoy listening to and ones that you can understand. So take the time to do that. Someone said, how important are phrasal verbs? They're important in terms of being able to understand others. You don't always need to use them in speech. Now, there are times when it would be the best verb to use to express what you want to express, okay? But it's not always necessary to use them. On the other hand, phrasal verbs are used all the time in everyday English. So just learn them like you learn anything else. Learn them like they're a verb or a vocabulary item. That way you can just don't worry about it. Don't try to learn lots of phrasal verbs. Instead, just enjoy the journey with it. The best book to improve English. Again, there's no one book that you can use that is going to be best for you. Instead, find books that are specific to you. So I can't say, oh, learn this book, read this book. Instead, find graded readers that are specific to your level and stories that you enjoy listening to. So that's important. Is to find, I think graded readers are really underrated, which means people don't give them enough credit for what they can actually do. So graded readers are fantastic. Najib says that the pronunciation part is important in daily practice. Yeah, it is. So when you first see, and I'll go back to this, when you first see one of these sentences, the first stage is to master the way it is said. This all seems very mysterious. Now let's go on to another example. I'll say easy.
It sounds good from what I know.
Sounds good from what I know. Now, these phrases are everyday English. Sometimes you're not going to think, oh, I know all these words. You know, you're going to say, I know these words. I know this vocabulary. But the key part is being able to say them in the right way at the right time. So it sounds good from what I know. From what I know, it's a little bit dangerous to travel around there. From what I know, I'm not quite sure about if that would be good for you. Or it sounds good. It sounds good. It sounds great. It sounds good. So what you're doing here is you're learning collocations, you're learning phrases, you're learning words that often go together. You're learning these different types of phrases which we use in everyday English, but you might learn the single words but not be able to use them as part of a sentence. So let's do another one.
Everything in this bucket is a mystery to Jack.
Now let's just say you find that easy and you think, oh, I don't want to learn that one. You can just say delete note, and then you don't have to do that moving forward. Okay?
It sounds amazing from what I've heard.
It sounds amazing from what I've heard. Now, what I do is with these sentences as well, is I take a sentence from context and then I give another example, just changing it slightly so that you can understand how to use it in different ways. Okay? So what you want to do is you read that, you listen to it, it sounds amazing from what I've heard, and you repeat it. And then sometimes you record your own voice and you listen back and then you repeat it on here, and then you can notice changes you need to make. That way you're going to really improve your pronunciation and the way you speak in general and your fluency. Okay. Any more questions about this? How can I improve my writing? I've made a video on that. I have a blog post on that as well. What I recommend you do again is go through these sentences and just write out sentences. Okay. If you want to get specific, let's say you have to write proposals, or you have to write a speech, or you have to write emails. You can find similar emails online and just copy and paste them, copy and paste them, copy and paste them. So you read it and you write it down. That way you're going to improve your writing in a more natural way. Juliet says, I'm studying English at the moment. After a month, I'll take IELTS exam. However, I'm struggling on speaking. So this method is really going to help you. But when it comes to the IELTS exam, also get very specific and focused on what kind of questions they're going to ask you and what kind of answers they are looking for. Okay. I've taken some tests in the past where I could have easily just learned everything about history, but all they wanted to know was specific answers or answers to questions that I already knew about. So look at some past IELTS exams, look at speaking examples here on YouTube, and then go through and think, all right, they ask that question a lot, or they ask similar questions a lot, and think about what type of answers you want to give. Then find a teacher who can help you with this, who is going to give you feedback on the speaking. How to make sentences interesting and attractive. It's about how you say it. It's not about what you say. Okay? I think this is a really important part. So when it comes to English, a lot of people want advanced English. Whereas we still say things like, how's it going? How are you? But you want to say this in a way that sounds enthusiastic, warm, polite, whatever it is you want to get across. So you don't need to say things like, in that kind of example, it's hard to say, or just like talking about a soccer player like Lionel Messi, just say like, he's incredible. He's incredible. And using that intonation and stress where I'm really focusing on the word incredible. He's incredible. Incredible. I'm making that stress on the incredible, which just gives it more emphasis. And that's better than saying, like, I can't think of a good example, but trying to sound advanced, using an advanced word. You know, he's astounding. He's astounding. It doesn't sound as good as saying he's incredible. I just think using simple everyday English is better than trying to use fancy idioms or advanced English when it just doesn't sound as good. Whereas focusing on things like intonation and stress is just going to make you sound so much better, and it's going to help you with your fluency as well. So concentrate on the way you say things. That's why, again, I recommend listening a lot and also getting audio phrases too. How do we learn that intonation? It's not taught in schools. Yeah, this is why, again, I think you can do this on your own by listening to phrases and repeating them and trying to match the intonation. You know, what you can talk about things like rise and fall intonation, rise intonation, and that does help, and that is part of my course. But you're going to learn it through just listening to people and repeating and then recording the way you say things so that you can make changes. Someone says, how can I check my English level? I have videos on that. Just search for To Fluency English Level. How can I get phrases for Anki? You can join my program. I'll put it in here. I have about, I think, 1,200 phrases right now. I normally add phrases every 2 months or so. It's not guaranteed. It's just something I like to do to add more to the program. For people who bought it 3 years ago, they still get new phrases now. But also what you can do is just find audio phrases online, as long as you're not, you know, getting them, downloading them illegally, and then upload them to Anki. But other things you can do as well is you can record your own phrases if you're happy with the way you say things. Najib says this program is affordable. It helps me a lot. Yeah, Najib's been in there for 5 years now, and he keeps getting the updates of the new phrases. There are 2 parts to it. There's the whole like pronunciation tutorial, and then it goes on to the audio phrases. What's the price of the fluency program for 1 month? It's more of think of it more as a one-time payment. So you pay for it, you get it, no more payments. But there is also a 12-month plan where you can pay monthly for 12 months. So it's not a monthly subscription. That's just a way for you to, like if you get a car payment and you pay monthly for the car, you don't continue paying for that once the car has been paid for. It's the same here. Okay, I'm going to end it here. If you could, please share this video with your friends so it can reach more people. Just in summary, it's important when it comes to learning English to consider your situation in your life. We all have commitments, we're all busy. And when you focus on what's important and make two things really important and two things you're focused on, then you're going to do them. And I think the two things to work on are lots of listening, podcasts, audiobooks, movies, TV shows, and then also this method I've talked about. As this method I've talked about really focuses on the way that you say things, but it's also going to help you internalize things as well. Okay, so I'll leave a link to the program one more time in the chat. Take a look at the payment options, and just learn more about it there. And then also go into the description, get my book, The 5-Step Plan for English Fluency, and check out some other lessons which are going to go into depth in what I've talked about today. All right. So again, thank you so much for being here. It's been great teaching you today, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Okay, bye-bye.